Once again, I'm back. YouTube. I actually came on here to do a video on the state of affairs and what we can potentially expect to happen in the next, say, 2 to 4 years. Now, what a lot of people don't know about the current state of affairs or may not even realize, though everybody knows that prices is going up, everything is increasing in price, and you're actually spending more than you're getting. So you're not getting the same amount of things that you used to buy with that dollar maybe 10, even 20 years ago, right? So inflation is hitting and getting at an all-time high. Now, a couple things that we're going to be seeing is a lot of money is going to be actually flowing back to America from other countries because as they use, other countries use less of the dollar, they're going to be trying to literally unload this dollar back this way through several methods and several means. Because if they are able to unload the dollar and stop using it less and less, what's that going to do? If you're using something less and less, that means it's actually going down in value because nobody's using it. There's no demand for it. So if the demand for the particular product or whatever it may be is going down, right? Meaning its value is going down. So, what's going to happen at that point? Prices are going to start increasing because they're going to require more of that dollar to purchase the same thing that you may have only paid a couple of dollars for before in the past. Now, what does that mean for the everyday people? Because there's a difference between the everyday people, obviously, and people who actually got it to spend. Everyday people are going to feel this the most because people who have money, who have large amounts of money, they're obviously going to feel it as well because they're spending more. However, they have more to spend. The everyday people don't have more to spend. So they're going to find themselves literally flat or just not having or just not be able to cover the things that they used to be able to cover maybe even a few years ago. Now, another thing is that we in America are very, very highly spoiled. Because if you think about it, right, we have been alleged so called going in an upward trajectory for over 200 years. You know, from the time the inception of the United States up until this point, it's probably roughly almost about 250 years, give or take, right? So, from the time of the inception of the United States up until now, we haven't really seen like anything significant. Most of us were not around during the Great Depression in the 1920s and 30s. Most of us were not around at that time. So we don't know what that times looked like. We can speculate, we can do research and kind of get an idea of what it was like. We can talk about it and do research on it, right? But none of us was actually physically there to be able to experience that time. Now, there were other downturns in the economy after the fact, but nothing is great as that depression in the 1920s. Now, my projection, my should I say, maybe even prophecy, if you want to call it, right? For the next few years, there's a chance that we can see the type of depression that came about back in the 1920s. So if you do some research at that point in time, it was really bad. So, and most of us has never seen this type of depression before because we've been coddled. If we really want to get technical, we have been coddled for a long time and we don't really know like real struggle. Though some people have struggled, there's obviously homeless people, but I think the most people who are homeless, these are people just kind of just literally gave up on life. Like they stopped trying to work, they stopped trying to improve their situation. They just completely just gave up, right? Then you have people who are not giving up. They're still working. They're going through it. They're struggling. However, they still are able to have the basics. They're able to have food. They're able to have basic transportation. They're able to have a roof over their head. All right. So that's common people who are able to get through during these times. But I really think that we're coming into a time that no one today is alive has ever seen before. And the real reason why it's gonna actually be real bad is because most people are divided amongst one another, right? That divided mindset has caused a big problem in today's economy. You know, again, from my previous video, I mentioned that you have all the other countries in the world, they actually work together to get themselves, what they say would call pull themselves up from their bootstraps. They're able to do that is because they do what's called cooperative economics. And, you know, most people in the West, they don't even think on those terms. They're more of it's about me, me, me. So, there's only so much that you as one person can actually do. When it's all said and done, we can't front and lie and act like we don't depend on others in some way, shape, or form. Whether you got a job, you have a business, and you have employees, you have customers who actually use your product and services on a regular basis, no one can deny the fact that there's truly no such thing as being independent, right? There's always some type of assistance in some way, shape, or form that is being provided to us to be able to take us to another level and increase our bottom line, right? So we have to realize that with the separatist mindset that most people have, it's gonna be essentially, it could be the downfall of a lot of people and the reason why things get worse for you, because you don't want to work together with your brothers and sisters, right? You don't want to work with your family members. You don't want to work with friends. You may choose to work with selective people. However, you guys can't really even work together because the only reason why you probably hang around one another is to just, literally, talk down to one another, just to have something to say about each other, and it's really there's no productivity amongst your friend group. Like, you guys are consumers. Like, It's okay to be a consumer. However, you have to produce something. You have to produce in some way, shape, or form to be able to justify your spending, right? You can't go out there in the world and make $1 million and then spend over $1 million. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. You're gonna be broke every time. So it really doesn't matter what you make, it's what you actually can keep. That's the difference between wealthy people and people that are not wealthy. See, the wealthy, they make money. Some of them make six figures, but they keep most of it because they live below their means. They're not running around trying to impress people they don't know, or even impress a so-called friend group, trying to outshine them, if you will, right? Uh, because you got the nicest car in the group. So, what's the point of that? A lot of people who live below their means, they make larger amounts of money. However, they live below their means, so they're able to have and keep more in case of times like this that we plan on seeing in the next few years. And it could get real ugly out there. Now, I'm not no doomsday preacher. I don't want anything. I don't want it to go bad out here, because obviously I'm in this also. You know, I'm in this with you guys, whether you like it or not, right? So, however, I'm more focused on finding and working with people who are like-minded and who really trying to build something. Like, there's no boss over the group, or no. When it's all said and done, we should be able to work together and figure out everyone's skills that's in the group, and everyone can actually work within their skill set to help improve the group. Kind of like, if we think about it, it's kind of going to go back to like a barter system situation where, okay, I know how to do this, you know how to do that, so we can exchange particular services. I can do this for you and you can do this for me, and this is how we would be able to move forward without having to exchange a dollar value or some type of monetary exchange to say that something was done. So, you know, if think about Venezuela, right? You got they take their dollars and they literally throw it in the dumpster. It has no value. You know, uh, there's gonna come a time, I've heard what was it, Noble Drew Ali said that it's gonna come a time where people are gonna literally just be stepping over $20 bills. It's just not gonna have any value, right? And if we look at it, that's what's happening right now. Because think about it, $20. What can you get with $20 these days? You really can't get much with it, right? But then you still got people who only are making less than $15 an hour, which should be the average minimum wage. But according to inflation, the minimum wage should be more like $25, $30 an hour, right? But obviously, you got large corporations, they're not going to pay that because they know people will settle for that lower amount. That's another reason why that brings me perfectly into the next topic is the the immigrants, and you have the illegals. You got to understand is that these large corporations, the reason why these immigrants were able to get in is because these large corporations need cheap labor, right? So if you go try to go get 10 immigrants to come work for your company, right? And let's say payday comes around. When payday comes around and uh, uh, the company owner has to pay everybody out, he can give them half of what he said he was going to give them. They're not going to go and complain to nobody about them not getting paid because they're illegals. They already know if they try to go complain about it, they're just going to end up shipping them out of here. So 9 times out of 10, those illegals are not going to go complain to anyone about it. So these corporations are able to get labor at half the cost. So you coming in talking about, oh, I need $30 or $40 an hour. They're gonna tell you, all right. They're gonna look at your application like, okay, we'll get in touch with you if we select you, if we decide to move forward with you, and they won't never call you. You will not hear from them because they know they can go hire 10 illegals. They can hire 3, 4 illegals for the cost they would hire you because you got such a high demand. So, and you really think that, Trump is gonna deport these illegals? Now he may do it. Some of them, I think more the ones that are considered the dangerous ones would most likely be the ones that would get deported. But the ones that are not hostile, the ones that they actually are here to work, they want to work, and they're going to provide that work to them because they know they can work for a lower cost, a lower wage. So obviously the richer just gets richer and the rest of everyone else are going to get left out, right? So most people are not going to accept that lower wage because they think that they deserve more. Okay, fine. So then that means you need to start a business, right? Again, if you're going to start a business, that means you need people to work with to get this business up and running. So you're not going to be able to get it done, right? Now, if you're in a position to provide employment for people, now you are in a position where you are able to grow, right? Because as a business owner, I can go hire illegals to come work for the company for the low, right? Have them doing all kind of work, and I can pay them a quarter of what I would pay you. And guess what? Even if I short them, as say these large corporations short them, guess what? Next week when it comes down to it, you think they're gonna come into work? Yeah, they're gonna come to work because in their mind they're getting something instead of nothing. They came here, most of them came with nothing, so they would rather be able to get something than get nothing. So they're willing to work for whatever wage that they're going to be afforded to them. But see, one thing about those illegals, though, you can't deny that they work together with one another. They back each other up. Most people here in America, they don't do that, right? So this is how you guys are going to get squeezed out because you don't work with one another. You think you're better than one another. You got family members and friends that think they better than you. So what does that mean? Valuation of that dollar going down, right? Employment opportunities going down. Well, not for everyone, but for the ones who think they're too good to go get a regular job and work like the rest of us and build something from the ground up. But then not only just that, being able to come together with your brothers and sisters, friends and family members to be able to pool your money together, if you will, and start acquiring property, right? Because as the economy goes to a downturn, everything's going to drop in price. Property, real estate, everything's going down. So now that's just going to create opportunities for the ones who are working together to be able to take down some of these properties out here all across America. They're able to take down these properties. Now, when the economy goes back up again, who's going to be in the position of power in the next 4 to 5 years? The people who kept that was able to keep working. They was able to work with others. They were able to do cooperative economics. They was able to save their money. They was able to live at a lower expense because there may be like 5 or 6 people living in one house paying off the bills. They all chip in for the lights. They chip in for the water. Everybody got they may all have their own room, or they may even have 2 or 3 of them in one room. They may have a family in one room. You got a mother and father with the children all in one room. But guess what? There's 3 families in one house and they all take a room. But guess what? In 1 to 2 years from now, they'll be in a position to buy 2 or 3 houses. So they're going to be doing better than you while you still renting. right? Y'all don't think. Some people just don't think. You sit up on your high horse, you're so arrogant, you're so haughty, you're stiff-necked, and then you're not producing and doing nothing. You're not even helping yourself, let alone others. You think that little job you got that's been paying you, whatever has been paying you, is going to continue on, where they can hire people who've actually gained the skill over the same period of time. So while you sitting there arrogant, you think, oh, nobody can fire you, they will fire your behind, go hire one of these illegals who took a profession, who actually went to school for maybe 1 or 2 years, and they was able to learn what you know, and they can hire that person for the fraction of the cost. And they'll come up with an excuse to let you go. Now your whole situation is upside down. You got this house you can't pay for anymore. You got the car note you can't pay. Repo man's coming. Huh? The sheriff's coming to kick you out your house because you can't afford the rent no more. You can't pay your rent. He coming. Right? Why? Because you was too cocky and arrogant to work with your own people so y'all can work together and come up and take down property for. And that's just one way of looking at things. That's the easiest way of doing it, right? But I think that some people got to learn the hard way. When you got a hard head, they say, what is a hard head makes a soft ass. So I guess it could be cliche or whatever it may be, but it kind of makes sense. So if you think that you're too high up, you're too good, you know better than everybody else, then hey, so be it. Right? But a lot of people are going to be humbled, I see, in the near future. And if you're not building those connections now, and you're not working on that, it's going to be harder to do it down the road. So it's better if you start doing it now and working amongst one another. Let's stop being arrogant, cut the arrogance out, cut the ego out, right? Stop trying to be above everyone else, right? Because I think it's time. It's coming to that time where people talking about hierarchy, right? How many times have we seen the boss get taken out because you got somebody in the organization that wants the higher position? It's happened, right? It's not like something that's most likely common, especially in corporations. But even in corporations, you still have companies that get taken over by other companies because they just wasn't doing the right thing. So the other companies was able to do a hostile takeover. All right? Especially if they know their industry better than you, they're going to be able to come in and swoop in and take control over that industry. And next thing you know, you being squeezed out without even realizing it. So long story short, we come into a time where we have to be able to work with one another. If we're not working with each other, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. It's good to have that network of people. Start working together so that way you be able to weather the storm that's coming. Again, we have never been in a time like this. We've never seen a real true depression, people that's alive at this time. We've never really seen it. But some people are more prepared than others. The question is, are you prepared for the up and coming storm? You got all these other countries, they're dumping the dollar. They're dumping it. That Bretton Woods agreement, that meeting on Jekyll Island, all that's coming to an end. The SWIFT system, they got the BRICS nations coming together, and they make more. If you look at the numbers, the BRICS make up more of the world GDP, gross domestic product, right? So that means that they have more of the world on their side, and they siding with them in the way they do things versus they're doing with the United States. Now, I think people don't also, not to put any fear into people, but people don't realize is that the United States is actually a small group of people, of wealthy people who actually just look out for one another. So it's not the entire population. So, but you got a small group of people who control the majority of the United States. So it's like you looking up to a group of people who don't really have your best interests at heart. So that's why it's important to create your own groups and make sure you guys have each other's best interests at heart. And I think that the time has come where, you do have people who are stuck on this hierarchy when it comes down to this hierarchy, right? Now, obviously, you're going to have an organizer for each of your groups. However, there's not anyone that's above